Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Al-Jumu'ah, Salat al-Jumu'ah, and normally in the fiqh class we would mention the rules, the laws, as for targheeb, encouragement, and that is another setting, a different setting, right? This is, as we mentioned, this is not a bayan or a lecture. Here we mention the laws, what is permissible, what is not permissible, what is valid, what is not valid, right? So Salat al-Jumu'ah, the ruling of Salat al-Jumu'ah. Salat al-Jumu'ah is compulsory. And if you understand the meaning of compulsory, it means that a person, he doesn't have the choice, he doesn't have what? That choice to exercise his opinion. Right? When something is obligatory and mandatory upon a person, then something he has to do. He has to do unless there's a valid reason. And the valid reasons are not left up to us to decide what are valid, what are not valid. Right? The Sharia also stipulates what are valid reason for a person to refrain from Jumu'ah, not attend the Salat al-Jumu'ah. Many times you hear a person, he mentioned, I can't go for Jumu'ah today, no, I have to go to Nitong. I have to go Port of Spain today. I have to work today. I get through a job, right? I'm gonna and this and that, right? And he thinks that these are excuses that would warrant him to stay away from Jumu'ah and not attend Salat al-Jumu'ah. No. So the compulsion of Salat al-Jumu'ah is proven in the Quran, the Hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. Allah Azza wa Jal, he addresses the believers. يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who believe. Allah Azza wa Jal is speaking to us, he's addressing us. إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة, when the adhan is sounded on the day of Jumu'ah, before Salat al-Jumu'ah, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله, then hasten towards his remembrance, hasten towards the masjid, hasten towards the place of Jumu'ah. But Allah Azza wa Jal, he didn't just mention it and stop, finish, no. He mentions وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ, and leave off trade and commerce. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that is better for you, إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you only knew. A person, whatever he can put as an excuse for not attending Jumu'ah, the best excuse that he could have is what? He has to seek a livelihood. He has to work. He has to provide for himself, provide for his family. Right? And that is the exact thing Allah Azza wa Jalla has mentioned here. وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ, leave off trade. Leave off trade, leave off commerce, leave off that thing in which you depend on, your livelihood depend on. This is not, we're not speaking about just trade to make a profit here, no. Here we're speaking about that trade, that commerce in which a person, his livelihood is based on that. What you call his bread and his butter. Leave off that. But if I leave it off, then what would happen? What will happen to me? What will happen to my family? Allah Azza wa Jalla, he mentioned, leave it off. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that is better for you. Leaving it off is better for you. إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you only knew. If a person only knew the importance of Jumu'ah, then he would leave off that for that short period of time and he would attend the Jumu'ah. If a person knows the repercussion for leaving out Salat al-Jumu'ah, if a person only knows the repercussion of that action, then he would khalas, in the next life, he would leave it out, if he only knew. But many people, they don't leave it out, they continue, and they make excuses. Why? Because what? They don't know. They don't know the reality and the consequences of their actions. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you only knew. So if this is something that is one of the most important things in a person's life, to seek what? A livelihood, to provide for himself and his family. And here Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, leave it off for that short period of time. It is better for you. Then anything else that is less than that, right, would also be included. Everything that is less than that will also be included. A person what? Whatever he is doing, Whatever he is doing, leave it off. Because if the most important thing in a person's life, Allah Azza wa Jal commands him to leave it off for that short period of time, then every single thing else below that, he would leave it also. And attend the Salatul Jumu'ah. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. So Salatul Jumu'ah is what? Very important. Right? We understand that what? From all the acts of ibadat, Salah is the most important. And from all the salawat, Salatul Jumu'ah is the most important. Salatul Jumu'ah is the most important. It doesn't mean that what we leave off the rest, no. But Salatul Jumu'ah, because it replaces, Salatul Jumu'ah replaces a fard. Salatul Jumu'ah, it replaces a fard. It replaces Salatul Dhuhr. Right? So to replace Salatul Dhuhr, which is fard, then it has to be what? More important than that Salah. Or at minimum equally important. But to replace, it has to be what? It has to be what? More important. And that is Salatul Jumu'ah. The first Jumu'ah that was performing in Medina. This was before the Prophet ﷺ, he even entered Medina. The Prophet ﷺ, while he was in Mecca, before the Hijrah, a Sahabi by the name of Mus'ab bin Umair, radiyallahu anh, he initiated the first Jumu'ah on the instructions of the Prophet ﷺ. As for the history and all these things, inshallah, you could read it up on your own, right? But here we're more concerned about the laws. The first Jumu'ah at the Prophet ﷺ, how it was, and like that. The first masjid in which the Prophet ﷺ, what he offered Jumu'ah. The first masjid is not, in which he offered Jumu'ah is not Masjid al-Nabawi, no, Masjid Bani Salama. He offered the first Jumu'ah, he offered in Masjid Bani Salama before he offered in Masjid al-Nabawi. Right. The compulsion of Jumu'ah. Who must attend the Jumu'ah? Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory upon whom? So when you speak about the compulsion of Jumu'ah, we look at two things here. The conditions necessary for Salatul Jumu'ah to be what? Compulsory, meaning it is compulsory upon whom? This is connected to an individual. And then you have what? The outer setting. What are those conditions necessary for Salatul Jumu'ah to be obligatory? Right? And we mentioned this what is the distinction between the two. So the first set over here, Salatul Jumu'ah upon an individual. What are those conditions necessary for Salatul Jumu'ah to be what? Obligatory upon him. Right? First, Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory upon a male. Right? That person, it doesn't mean that what women don't perform Jumu'ah. You know what? They have the option. They have the option of what? Performing Salatul Dhuhr or Salatul Jumu'ah. As for a man, he doesn't have the option. He doesn't have the option, or today I'll perform Dhuhr instead. He doesn't have that option. Right? But yes, if he doesn't perform Jumu'ah, then what? He will have no choice but to perform Salatul Dhuhr. Right? But he doesn't have that option. If there's no valid reason, he has to perform Salatul Jumu'ah. A free person, an adult, we're speaking about a male adult. Right? Salatul Jumu'ah is not compulsory upon children. It doesn't mean that children should not attend the congregation. Here we speak about compulsion. Understand? When something is compulsory upon a person, it means that he doesn't have the choice. He must what? He has to do it. And if he does not do it, then that person, he would be sinful. This is the meaning of compulsion. Right? Many a times a person, he would do qurbani, but qurbani is not obligatory and compulsory upon him. Right? So if he were to do it, yes, he would be rewarded. But if that person upon whom qurbani, for example, is not obligatory upon him, right? He does not do it, he's not sinful. As opposed to that person whose qurbani is obligatory upon him, if he doesn't do it, then that person would be sinful. This is the meaning of any compulsion. That person, health. Alright? Sahih, a person what? Sihha, he has what? Health. Then Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory upon that person. But then someone who speak about health, I feeling good today, nah, I feeling good today. The students, so I didn't come to school yesterday, I wasn't feeling good, right? That's happened to everybody. Time to go to work. Are you feeling to go on work? Are you feeling to go? Right? But, so it's not like when you're feeling and, we're speaking about a legit reason, a valid reason. A valid reason, a person what would a valid reason for not attending the Jumu'ah with regards to what a person's health? That person is so sick that he can what? Leave the house, he cannot move from the bed. Or that person is what? Bedridden, or that person is he's blind. That person what? He cannot walk, right? Otherwise, I'm not feeling good, I have a headache, I have a belly pain, I have a slight fever, I have this, I have that. These are normal. This is normal, right? And you understand, the same excuses that person would make for not attending Jumu'ah because he wasn't feeling good because of this pain. Then after he leaves them, you see him Princess Town, you see him San Fernando, he going to work as normal. So these same excuses that what he brings that he cannot come for Jumu'ah, right? It's not working for, he's not applying to his workplace. He's going to work as normal, right? He's going to work as normal. Right, so a person who chooses to refrain from Salatul Jumu'ah, he must have a valid reason. Alright, we're speaking about a person's health. If he is sick to the extent he is disabled, that person cannot walk, or walking would aggravate, right? Movements would aggravate that person, increase his sickness or bring pain to that person. That is different. Alright? Now,
about a person missing 3 consecutively.
Right, so it's not, understand carefully, that person, if we mention that Salatul Jumu'ah is the most important Salah, right? The most important Salah is Salatul Jumu'ah. And here Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam speaks about a person who misses one Salah muta'ammidan. A person one Salah deliberately, he leaves out intentionally, then what? That is a major sin. It's a major sin to leave out one Salah. So some people have the concept that, Salatul Jumu'ah, I can miss it, but not 3 consecutive Jumu'ah. So I miss the first one, the second one, and I clock in for the third one. Then I'll miss 2 again and what? Clock in for the third. And sometimes you see people what? In Jumu'ah, you see them every 3 weeks, right? So I know what madhab is that. No, a person doesn't have the choice, right? A person doesn't have the choice. He must attend. If there's no valid reason, he must attend every single Jumu'ah, right? He doesn't have the choice, to skip one, or skip 2, or make sure and get the third one. No, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, yes, that person who misses 3 consecutive Jumu'ah, tubi'a ala qalbihi. Allah Azza wa Jal places a seal on his heart. Right? And normally you see a person miss 3 Jumu'ah, you're not going to see until Eid. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't give that person tawfiq to perform Salatul Jumu'ah, the 3rd, the 4th Friday, or the one after that. So it doesn't mean that when the hadith mentioned tubi ala qalbihi, Allah Azza wa Jal places a barrier and a seal in the heart of that person because of his negligence and because of his transgression and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, constant disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places a seal on his heart. It doesn't mean that that person he leaves the fold of Islam. No. Right? It doesn't mean that that person he leaves the fold of Islam. No. A person would only leave the fold of Islam, as we mentioned in previous classes, that if we understand that Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory, right? That obligation, if a person were to negate the obligation of Salatul Jumu'ah, then that person, he leaves the fold of Islam, he becomes an apostate. He leaves the fold of Islam and he becomes an apostate. Why? Because he denies a fard act, right? Which is agreed upon. There's no difference of opinion. No madhab would mention Salatul Jumu'ah is not obligatory. There's no qawda, there's no view like that. So if a person were to negate the compulsion, here we're not speaking about a person who not performing Salatul Jumu'ah. A person saying, hey, Salatul Jumu'ah is not, you don't have to perform that. He negates the compulsion, right? He negates the compulsion. Listen, even though he may attend. This is i'tiqad and belief we are speaking about. Even though he may attend Salat al-Jum'ah, but he said, listen, you don't have to perform Salat al-Jum'ah. That is not obligatory. Right? If you have the time, then you could do it. Right? So even though he were to attend, but he negates the compulsion of Jumu'ah, then that person becomes an apostate and a murtad. And there's no difference of opinion in that. As opposed to a person who does not attend Salatul Jumu'ah, but he doesn't have that belief. He does not attend the Jumu'ah, right, because of weak iman, laziness, whatever. Yes, you can call him a sinner, a fasiq, a fajr, whatever, right? But that person is still in the fold of Islam. Why? Because he's not negating the compulsion of Jumu'ah. He's not negating the compulsion of Jumu'ah. And similar we mentioned for what? For Salah, or the other Salawat. And we mentioned for what? Fasting. Right? These things are mujma alayh, considered agreed upon from the time of the Prophet ﷺ to now, and that there's no difference of opinion. So if a person, for example, doesn't fast for whatever reason, I know I'm supposed to fast, but he just negligent, then that person, whatever you want to call him, fasiq, fajr, a sinner, transgressor, but that person is still in the fold of Islam, as opposed to that person who said, listen, fasting, you don't have to fast, right? Not in our times, in this heat, you don't have to fast. Fasting is not mandatory upon us. If you want to fast, you can fast. You have the option to fast. Then that person, if he has that belief and that i'tiqad, then that person becomes an apostate and he leaves the fold of Islam. And he becomes, when you say apostate, a non-Muslim, and he dies, and if he dies upon that belief, then he dies upon kufr, and it's not permissible to offer salatul janazah upon him, nor for him to be buried in a Muslim cemetery. Even though his name is Ali or Muhammad or Khan or whatever. So you come back here to the topic. A person must be a muqim. We spoke about safar and traveling, right? So Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory upon a muqim, a resident. If he's a traveler, a person is a traveler, then he has the option, right, to perform Jumu'ah or Dhuhr. And we mentioned whatever is the cause for his journey, whatever is the purpose of his journey, doesn't matter. Once he is considered to be what? A Musafir, a traveler, right? Then his Sharia has given him that allowance, that concession, right? That concession to delay the fast. But your travel what? Your travel not difficult. My working more difficult than your traveling, right? Still, once he is a traveler, right, he is given that concession, right? And we're not speaking about the traveler who wants to reach Marbella by zigzagging to make up the kilometers, 88 or 78 kilometers. You pass through from here and you go Pinal, then you go Debe, and then you go San Fernando, and then coming into Marbella to make up the 78 kilometers. That doesn't make a Musafir, right? That doesn't make a person a Musafir. And listen, and strange enough, this is the view of what? After discussing this masala with this issue with many people, this is the view of, or the assumption of even with many ulama, right? Once you travel and you cover a certain amount of distance, right, you are musafir, right? They assume that what? And many of them, once you travel, you're driving and you're watching the kilometers in your vehicle, right? And you drive, however you drive, and you cover 78 kilometers, right? According to some 88 kilometers, right? You become a musafir. No. A person only becomes a musafir where that person intends a place, right? He intends a destination, and from the boundary of what? His departure, it doesn't have to be his hometown, he can be somewhere else, right? But normally he will travel from his hometown, right? So you check from the boundary of his departure, the boundary of his hometown, to the boundary of the place that he intends to go, right? If that is 78 kilometers via any route, any normal route, right? You might have multiple routes to a place. So if one route in one route you're getting 78 kilometers, and the next route you're not getting 78 kilometers, and you took the longer route, yes, you'd be a Musafir, because these are normal, natural routes to a place, right? When a person goes zigzagging like this, if a person has to go Marbella, a person can pass through what? About 4 or 5 different ways to go Marbella. He can go to the southern main road, he can go to the highway, he could come through from Turuba, he could come from Reform, he could go through Picton, Duncan Village, and southern, right? So what, these are natural ways he could go Marbella. But to go Marbella, to go through what? Pinal, Debe, this is not a route to Marbella. So even a person would take what? To drive, to increase the distance to reach a place in which what? Between his hometown and that place is not what? 78 kilometers, then he would not be a Musafir. Otherwise, everybody would be Musafir from one village or one city to the next if you keep on what? Right? Say what? Yeah. You're in a construction site, so you're dropping workers and material, so you check in, right? So between what? The work site and you have what? The material inside is about 10 kilometers, so you make about how much? 5 trips already, right? And the last stop is what? That highway over there. And you just become a Musafir because they're checking the distance, right? And I like the example I'm going to give last time, right? From point A to point B is less than 78, right? From point A to point B, the destination is what? Is point B is less than 78 kilometers, right? But in midway now, you want to go for gas because there's no gas station around and the gas is low in the car. So you take a route in midway now to your right. You drive down for about 20 kilometers looking for a gas station, and you take the next 20 kilometers to come back on route, like 20, 20, 40. And okay, by the time you reach what point B, you get 78 kilometers. That doesn't make a person a Musafir, because this is that what route he took forward for the gas, to go to that gas station. That is not a route to what? Point B. Alright? Now, so if a person is a muqim, a resident, so Salatul Jumu'ah is obligatory upon a resident, not a traveler. So if a person is a traveler, by definition of the Sharia, then he is given any that Allah wants in that concession, either to pray, attend the Jumu'ah, or any perform Salatul Dhuhr. فَلَا جُمُعَةَ عَلَى مُسَافِرٍ. Right, and as I mentioned, many Mawli Sahibs is of that opinion. We kind of doing up an article, right, a short article, inshallah, on that same issue, Qasr, alright. Inshallah, we publish it soon. Huh? Yeah. You see what happened? There's in the classical books of Fiqh, right? This is where you get the fatwa and the rulings from, right? They mention, and this is what they get, this whole confusion comes in, right? A place, a destination, a person going to a destination. And the book mentioned lahu tariqan. To that destination, there are two routes to that destination. One route is a long route. The other route or route is a short route. The long route would cover the distance of a Musafir. The shorter one would not cover the distance of a Musafir. If a person were to take the longer route to his destination, he would be a Musafir. And if he would take the shorter route, he would not be a Musafir. So based on that now, they are of the opinion that what? A person, if he takes what? A long route to enter his place of destination, and he covers the distance of 78 kilometers, then he would be a Musafir. Right? He would be a Musafir. But what is understood here is that what? The destination, it has two routes or multiple routes. We're speaking about yani marahil mu'tada, as the books mention. We're speaking about normal, natural routes to that place. Routes to that place. If you have to give a person a direction, I want to go San Fernando, I want to go Marbella, and they tell them, listen, I don't know traffic, right? So there's natural, I want to go, I want to reach fast, right? I know traffic and this and whatever, so so you give them all these options over here, right? No one would ever say, you know what, boy, if you want to go Marbella, you pass through Pinal, then go through Debe, and no, these are not routes to, right? Like a person want to go Toko, right? You have the scenic route, right? The coastal route there in Manzan, that's a route to Toko. Anyhow, Toko is what? Any route you take, anyhow, you'll be a Musafir, not so? It's far, right? It covers the distance anyhow, any route you take, right? But the example that you gave was what? Arima, right? From here to Arima is not 78 kilometers, right? Through any natural route, right? But if you were to go at Port of Spain, and then from Port of Spain you go Arima, right? Then you'd cover the distance, 78 kilometers or more, you'd cover the distance most likely, right? But to go Port of Spain is not a route to Arima, right? It's not a normal route to Arima.
Yes, sir. So, let me say, you have to go to Port of Spain and then to Arima.
Right. So your intent, right? Remember we speaking about when at the time of departure you make your intention to go to a place. Understand intention very important. Otherwise you could go from here to Toko and you'll be a Musafir. It's possible that person drive or travel from here to Toko and is not a Musafir. Why? Because he didn't intend what? For example, what? He intended to go Shagwanas. And after Shagwanas he meet up his friends, you know what? Let's go Toko. So you check now, you're checking the distance from what? Shagwanas to Toko if it amounts to 78 kilometers, right? So intention there. So a person leaving now to go Arima via Port of Spain, right? So this is his intent that he's going Arima, right? So now his intent is what? He's going what? He's going Arima, but first he has a stop in Port of Spain. He has to go to collect something in Port of Spain, something in Port of Spain, right? So yes, he intends 2 places here, but none of these places, right, from the boundary of his hometown, to Port of Spain is not what? The distance of what? 78 kilometers. Nor from here to what? How you call it? From here to Arima is the distance of 78 kilometers. Alright? Yes, if you were to travel from here to Port of Spain to Arima, you would cover more than that. Right? But you check what? Your destination. Right? So you could say you have 2 destinations here, but none of them, amounts to 78 kilometers or 88 kilometers according to some. Alright? So
if you have more than one destination, you have to check them as individual destination, not as total destination. Yeah,
no, but what you're checking is what? That place that you're going, right? Understand, for example, you're going from what? From here to Toko, and from Toko you're going, how you call it? Same Arima. Just say, from here to Toko to check somebody, and then you're going Arima for something. Alright? So, from here to Toko, you'll be a Musafir. So when you reach Arima, you'll be a Musafir also. But you are not a Musafir by virtue of what? Reaching to Arima. No, you are Musafir because you intend to go Toko. From here to Toko is the distance. Right? So by the time you reach Arima, right? Understand, by the time you reach Arima, you still what? You still a traveler. Right? You still a traveler. What's that? No, your final destination is Toko, right? So a person can go from here, understand, from here to Toko is a distance of what? 78 kilometers or more. You could stop and spend the night, you could spend 2 days, you could spend a week. Right? You'd be a Musafir. The moment what? You leave the boundary of your hometown, if you know you're going to spend 3 days by your grandmother in Arima before you go to Toko, you'll be what? The laws of Safar will apply. Why? Because your destination is Toko, which is 78 kilometers or more.
What's the intention?
Yeah. Once the intention is to go Toko. Right. I tell you, we should continue the laws of traveling, right? A person being a Musafir, yes, he's exempted. He is given concessions and allowance in the Sharia, right? Easiness, because normally a traveler, that person only move, right? And what traveling is something that is difficult, even though our timing is what is easy, right? But that concession is still there. So if a person is a Musafir, Salatul Jumu'ah is not obligatory upon him. Yes, it doesn't mean that what he cannot attend the Jumu'ah. You know what? If he does not attend the Jumu'ah and he performs Salatul Dhuhr elsewhere, it doesn't mean he is sinful. No, he has that option, right? He has the option. It's not obligatory upon him. As a resident, he doesn't have the option. He has to perform Salatul Jumu'ah. There are some of the concessions given to a Musafir. Also what? If he's a traveler, the days of Qurbani is not obligatory upon him, right? If he's speaking about wiping on his socks, he's given an extension. He's given 72 hours to wipe on his socks, as opposed to a resident who's given 24 hours, right? A Musafir also, he is given the allowance to delay the fard fast of Ramadan, right? When he's a traveler, he has the choice to fast or to delay it, after what? After travel, after he becomes a muqim, right? These are what the main and what, and also what his salah, all his 4 rakah salah, dhuhr, asr and isha, he would perform 2 instead of 4. So these are the concession given to what? A traveler, right? So a person don't just zigzag and become a traveler.
You mentioned that Qurbani will not be compulsory on a traveler.
No, they're not qadha for Qurbani. No. Understand? Fast, okay. Fast, they delay. Right? Fast, they delay. Right? Qurbani, if it's obligatory upon you, you do it. If it's not obligatory upon you, right, you don't have to do it. Right? Like a person, if he doesn't have the nisab, Qurbani is not obligatory upon him. Right? If he were to do it, yes, he will be rewarded. But if he were not to, if that person didn't do the Qurbani, he would not be accountable. He would not be sinful. Why? Because it's not obligatory upon him. Right? Here the Musafir come on the same ruling. Right? It's not obligatory upon him at all. Right? So it's not like, after the days of Qurbani pass now, he has to give sadaqah on the value of the animal. No. No, that's what a person intent, right? Even though you intend this, you intend that is between Allah. Except that once a person is a Musafir, he is given that allowance. For example, the month of Ramadan, the place hot here, why are you going to travel? Are you going to leave? Right? Where are you going to for? Just holiday, just vacation, right? So what's going to happen over here? He would not be what? Accountable, he would not be sinful. But what he going to lose out of? He going to lose out on all the blessings of what? The month of Ramadan. Right? He going to lose all that blessing, he going to lose all the blessing of Qurbani. Otherwise that person, he would not be accountable in the sense that what? He would not have to do qadha for it and make up for it, right? And if his intent is deliberately what escape that, then that is between him and Allah. We can't judge that, right? Like a person, right? That is why according to the Hanafi madhab, a man cannot give what? His wife zakah, vice versa. Right? So now man check up his zakah over here. We had to give how much? 100,000 zakah. So you take all his money and you give it to his wife. He had no money, but if he make an arrangement, you have to make sure you give back that money, Right? So this hila to give the wife and then what? The wife gives you back and this and that. Remember you're checking the anniversary. You don't pay zakat just as spontaneously. Everybody have a fixed date, right? So listen, if your date is, for example, the 10th of Ramadan, right? And you had about $10 million, right, on the 8th of Ramadan, and you transfer all of that before what? The 10th. Whether you spend it or you give whatever, that's not in your possession anymore. So come the 10th of Ramadan, you don't have no zakat to pay, right? Then after the 10th of Ramadan pass now, you have money, right? So now you have that on the 11th. Understand zakah? Your date is what? It's like you take what? A snapshot of everything you own on that day. What happens before is irrelevant. What happens afterwards is irrelevant. So if your zakah anniversary is, for example, the 10th of Ramadan, and you broke that day, right? On that day, you don't have the nisab, right? On the 11th of Ramadan, you just get what? 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, for example, right? You don't have to pay zakah, right? Zakah not obligatory upon you. This is your date, the 10th, all right? So that's what we tell people. Some people, they ask them, when you pay zakah? Well, I pay zakah in Ramadan. How you mean? Ramadan has 29, 30 days, right? And every single day of a person's life, his possession is what? Increase or decrease, right? Generally, right? So you don't pay, a person doesn't pay zakah in Ramadan. No, you pay zakah in a specific day in Ramadan, right? It must be specific, right? Not like the smart one I paid on the 30th of Ramadan, right? Right? So his 30th of Ramadan will be the first, right? Either or. If there's a 30th or, the first of Shawwal. Had
no intention. Reach a particular distance. Distance covered the required amount.
But he had no intention of going there. He just drive in. Okay.
Could he make intention to come back home and be a traveler?
Right. So understand a good question, right? So before I answer that question, we bring back this scenario. All right. Jumma connected to it, so at least we're on the topic, right? That scenario where we're going to a destination and there's multiple routes to that destination, right? Multiple routes state, and from one of the routes it covers the distance. The other routes doesn't cover the distance, right? Say just have two routes there. One is a long route, right? That covers the distance, and the other is a shorter route that doesn't cover the distance. So what he does, he goes in the shorter route. Right? He goes in the shorter route. So when he reaches that place, he's not a musafir. Why? He didn't cover, right? He didn't cover the distance. Alright? But on his return he wants to come through the longer route. Right? So now on his return from that point of departure, he intends to come home. Right? And between between the two boundaries, there is a distance of safar. So when he is leaving now, yes, he would be a musafir while returning. Right? He would be a musafir while returning. And the moment he enters the boundary of his hometown, khalas, they're resident. Intend or don't intend. The moment you enter the boundary of your hometown, you become a resident. So that same person who just drives then with no intent, place to place and no intent to go, that place he is going. And it happens to be the distance of 78 kilometers or more. He had no intent. So khalas, because he had no intention, he will not become a musafir. Right? He will not become a musafir. But time to come home now, khalas, he intends to go home. Right? So when he leaves the boundary of the place of departure, yes, the laws of safar will apply to him. Right? So it's not a condition that, listen, only if you're going as a musafir, right, you can come back as a musafir. No. Same place.
Same place.
Alright.
So reach there, I'm going to reach now in Tanzania to Papa home. Become Musafir at that time. So if we reach there now, let me say reach there after time, right? We want to Musafir near home there. But we're going to leave there now after Maghrib. So we're after Maghrib. The intention is to come home now. Right? So but we're still in the same spot we reach. Right? So the next Salah comes. What we doing? Pray.
Salat al-Isha. Right? So understand, you over there like your home. You are a resident. So if it's a resident, you perform 4 rakah. Right? The laws of safar will only apply when they leave the boundaries at that place. Just like how you're home here and you intend to go to that place. Right? So that Isha comes in. Right? You're a resident. Even though you intend to go, but we know we live in afterwards. Right? So Salat al-Isha comes in. So once you still within that same what? The boundary of your town, you will perform any 4 rakah. After leaving the boundaries, only then the laws of any traveling would apply. We going where? No, yeah, I'm going. You intend to spend 15 days?
So when we become a resident, as we reach there, or before we
right. So when you reach there, you'll be a Musafir. Right? When you reach, the moment you enter the boundary of that destination, and you intend to stay 15 days or more, right? This is where you do qasr, and not qasr. This is where you complete your salah 4 rakah. You're going to pray, right? So you do qasr straight until what? You understand? Even though your intent is to stay there for 15 days, you know that before. You're not going over there to make mashra to say, okay, how long are we going to stay here, brothers? No. You already know that you're going to stay over there for 15 days before even leaving the place of departure, right? Despite that, you will do qasr, right, straight until your destination. Upon reaching your destination, if that happens to be the same near, right, you would perform the 4 rakah. Right, you'll perform 4 rakah there. Right, so okay, you're over there now, the same place, everybody going to the same place, right? So you're over there now making intention to stay for 15 days or more, so you're not doing qasr. The laws of qasr will not apply again. You perform your Jumma, your Qurbani, your this, your that, your fasting, everything. Now you're going to leave, you're coming back home, right? You're coming back home, so when you're leaving there now, from the boundaries is the same, right? From there now to your home is the distance. So the moment you cross the boundaries at the place of destination, you now are Musafir once again, right? Until you enter the boundary of your hometown.
So when we leave to go there,
from here, from home.
From home, before we reach there, we are Musafir.
Where's that?
When we leave home to go to that destination, we distance from here to there, that time, while we leave from here to go there, we Musafir.
Yes, you are Musafir, but the laws of Safar will only apply after. No, after leaving the boundary of your hometown. Yeah, here.
When we reach there, we decide to stay there for 15 days.
Right. There now, the laws of Safar will not apply. You'll be like a temporary resident.
But during that travel, that's Safar from.
You'll be a resident. You'll be a Musafir. Yeah. You'll be a Musafir.
I want to find out where is this place all I'm for that.
Me too. Everybody going that place, huh? Yeah. I know what that. It's still long too. 15 days.
One more question.
Go ahead.
Muslim, ill-informed, and of course, might like to talk a little much and make certain statements that he did not knowledge about, contradicting certain things in the Quran and all that. He being type of person here, that make him apostate.
No, understand? Apostate, right? There's something what? Listen, we say apostate, we know it's apostate, a kafir, right? So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, Man kaffara musliman faqad kafar. If a person does takfir upon another Muslim, right, then that kufr comes back to him. So it's not like, okay, that has to be clear cut, right? They have people nowadays doing takfir upon this one, that one. If a person he commits a major sin, he does something wrong, or violate the laws of the Sharia, that doesn't, yes, a major sin, but that doesn't take him out the fold of Islam. You could be a righteous, pious person, and you see a person doing something evil, right? And you say, actually, anta kafir, your statement worse than his actions, right? Your statement, that person's statement, it is worse than the actions of that person. Why? Because he is doing takfir upon a person who the Sharia acknowledges to be a Muslim, right? A Muslim is not a person, okay, who we feel is a Muslim, who the Sharia acknowledges to be a Muslim. So once his action is there's no clear apparent kufr and disbelief in his actions or statement, then we cannot say that that person is a non-Muslim. right? So even though you look at exactly, okay, what he negates, for example, if a person negates what? Salatul Witr, right? He negates Salatul Witr. You have to pray Salatul Witr, right? That's something that is wajib, right? If a person what doesn't, he negates that, yes, he becomes a sinner, but that doesn't take him out of the fold of Islam, right? It could be a sinner, a fasik, a fajr, a transgressor, whatever, but that doesn't take him out of the fold of Islam. Right, so it depends on, okay, what are the contradictions, what he is refuting, what he is.
Let me say he's saying they know how to pray 5 times a day.
Well, then if everybody. So, no, that is what? He's a Muslim. That's what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. وَإِنْ زَعَمَ أَنَّهُ Muslim. If a person, for example, negates qadar, we don't go discuss and go into depth in qadar and decree and this and that, but this is our fundamental belief, right? But a person negates what qadar, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that he's not a Muslim. وَإِنْ زَعَمَ, the word in وَإِنْ زَعَمَ أَنَّهُ Muslim, right? According to the Sharia, he's not a Muslim, even though he thinks that he's a Muslim. Even though he calls himself a Muslim, right? So a person what calling himself a Muslim, right? You have many people, subhanallah, they like to celebrate everything, right? So a person what? He go to church, he go to the temple, and they come to the masjid, right? So does that make him a Muslim? He come into the masjid and for Eid or for Jumma or performing Salah? No, right? A person wants a person what? Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentioned, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Iyaka na'budu, only you we worship. So if a person is worshipping Allah and other than Allah, then he is not worshipping Allah. You understand? So if he's worshipping Allah and Sunday he's worshipping what? Jesus, and I know what day is temple, but that day he worshipping Ram, then what? Even though he may be punctual in the masjid, he is not worshipping Allah, right? So a person does not worship Allah, he worships other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He is what? He's not a Muslim, right? Understand, the kuffar of Quraysh at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, they used to worship Allah, but not worship like how what the worship Allah Azza wa Jal demands, right? They worship Allah and they worship other than Allah. Right? You call them mushrik, yani ashraka billah. They ascribe worship, they ascribe partners to Allah Azza wa Jal in worshiping. That is why they are called mushrikeen. They worship Allah and they worship other than Allah. Right? But worshiping other than Allah is not worshiping Allah. Right? So that is why they are called mushrikeen. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the Quran, and if you were to ask them, وَإِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ, and if you were to ask them, مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, who created the heavens and the earth? لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ, they would say Allah created the heavens and the earth. That didn't make them Muslim. They didn't say Lat and Uzza created the heavens and the earth. They acknowledge that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He is the Khaliq, He is the creator. But what was their crime? They ascribed what? Others to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once a person worships other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is not worshipping Allah. Alright? So, many times I hear people, 3 roads lead to 1. Even though, listen, a person, 3 roads lead to 1. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, 1 straight path. Right? 1 straight path. They're not 3 roads lead to 1. Right? As-sirat al-mustaqim is 1 path. Alright? So, if a person, understand here, because of the jahal and the ignorance of people, we don't just do takfir and okay, call people what, kafir and disbeliever. No, right? Like a person who mentions that, right? You try to what? Educate that person, right? Because the environment he lives in is not an Islamic state or Islam. Everybody is Muslim and the rule is Muslim and Islam is the norm and all about, you know what? It's not like that, right? It's a kuffar country that we live in. So a person, but then you have social media and you have all this thing that bombarded different type of information. So if a person confused genuinely, and what, you try to sort out that, no, in Islam, and what. And if he insists, you don't have to perform salah, right? or the 5 times daily salah is not compulsory. Yeah? He insists after what proof and evidence brought to that person to what proper people and proper channel, and he remains on that path, right? It will take a while, yes, it will happen overnight. You tell him today and he accepts. No, after a while now, and he's still on that, he's still, on that belief that in Islam, you don't have to perform salah then, right? Isn't like, okay, pardon, what you say over there? Anta kafir. I will catch you. You ask him a question to trap him, right? And he says something that contrary to the Sharia. See what this man believes? No, we don't put people in a situation like that, right? So that is very important. Listen, a person's aqidah, a person's belief, right? Because that is the fundamental, that's the foundation of everything. All a person's a'mal, it depends on what his i'tiqad and his belief, right? His i'tiqad is not correct, his belief is not correct, then what his actions has no weight, right? Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, it will be like haba'an manthura, like scattered dust or scattered what? Wool on the day of judgment has no value because his iman and his i'tiqad is not correct. Right, now we have the conditions for establishing Jumu'ah. We spoke about the conditions necessary for the individual himself, right? He be what? A mature male, he be a resident, he's able to what? Attend the Jumu'ah. There's no way he's not sick to the extent that he cannot attend the Jumu'ah. So these things over here. Now we have the conditions for the Jumu'ah itself, right? And that will take a little while too, right? Meaning what? The timing, you have the khutbah, you haven't been in a city or a town, all these things. So we'll continue this, but we still have a few minutes, 5 minutes. No? What? Every day?
We didn't change every day.
I thought 7:15 is Adhan. Okay, sorry. We finish here now. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah. Shadallah.